I mentioned on Twitter that I was going to release a Baiken rant that I did a while ago, quite a couple months ago, but seriously, it's going to be coming out in about a couple days, I think. I tried to find a rant yesterday after doing a very extensive rant that I'll be uploading soon about a game. I tried to find a rant in the files of the corrupted drive, which still surprisingly lets me view it, thankfully. But if I can't find the file, then, and which is probably likely because who knows where it is. It probably was on Audacity, I forgot to save it. And if it is outdated, which I do find it, then consider that one aborted. And this one will be put into place. So, as I may have mentioned in past tweets and even my last Guilty Gear video, which surprisingly did very well, even if there's not a lot of comments. It probably got posted somewhere, but people don't want to leave comments, but whatever. I am still not very fond of having to pay for legacy characters who've been around since the very beginning of the series. And Baiken is surely no stranger to being a obscure character, like with Dr. Baldhead, which ever since Guilty Gear X, he's been taking the guise of Faust, which makes sense. He's got a character arc, but why not at least have someone like Cliff or Justice? I mean, yeah, I know they're dead, but it's does every DLC character have to be canon to the story? I mean, what happened to games that had characters that were unlockable but weren't canon, like with Justice in Guilty Gear X Plus, which was a PlayStation 2 Japanese exclusive version of that game, which added a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, it was kind of half-baked, but hey, it was a version of a game that has not been localized since. You could probably think that they would have that version localized and have it be available since it has the most content. Maybe the balance is off-key, but whatever. I think I mentioned this in the last video. It's been some time since I've ranted, but why do these fighting games keep having, lack of content and yet justifying a full price just because it's online is supposedly good? I don't get that. Yeah, we're living in times where, it's hard to do meetups and play video games person to person, but you literally have programs on Steam that let you emulate that experience, and even PS4 lets you do share play, which lets you do the same thing, albeit under a slightly shittier internet connection because console inferior race. Just because a game has good netcode but lacking in content does not make it good. What if the game's netcode was terrible? I am so sick of people saying that this game is good, it has great content for offline players who aren't fortunate enough to be able to play online, but the game has terrible netcode, so the game overall is not very good. I'm not going to buy it. It's so weak-minded, I swear. It also annoys me that when even a game, no matter how good it might be, if it doesn't have rollback netcode, it's not worth supporting. But even if a game does have rollback netcode, or has the best netcode of all time, it's not going to be bought because of reasons. It might be too anime focused, which is funny because Guilty Gear and BlazBlue are essentially anime incarnation on video games, which I don't mind because it's not only a distinctive art style from other Western-made games, which, yeah, I know, Arc System works in Japan, whatever, but, it doesn't matter if it's Western or anime or anything. If it's a good game, it's a good game. Soul Calibur takes place several years ago before, not in modern times, and yet those games are still hold as one of the best 3D fighting games that has a decent track record, with only the games that are coming on the 360, PS3, having pretty questionable quality, but still overall decent game. And with Soul Calibur 6, okay, yeah, it's not as content-packed as 3, but it's a lot better than Tekken 7, and I still stand that to this day. It has a lot more things going for it compared to Tekken 7. Even though Tekken 7 is the more recognizable and overall more popular brand because, it's Tekken, so whatever. But I am so sick of having people having their cake and eat it too, because whether a game is rollback netcode or not, it's not going to be bought. And even if an older game does get released and doesn't have netcode up to par with most games that aren't even very good to begin with, it's still not going to be bought. Look, I understand buying a game to support the developers. They don't even do that. Not even just to show that, hey, we're interested in this because this game is a feature that will be really nice in my game, but they don't play it. And even older games do get updated several years later for some reason. That's another thing I want to get into. I think I mentioned this on Twitter a while ago as well. Games like BlazBlue and I think Guilty Gear XX, Action Core Plus R, and even Cross Tag Battle Wall games, even though the game is honestly not very good. It's definitely not aged very well. It's aged like milk. A good idea initially. It had a great promise that even Ruby would be added into the game, but after the last time they added characters, the roster is just immensely disappointing. Yeah, I know there's the whole half the characters being DLC, but there's literally a complete package now, so I really don't care anymore. It's just dumb. And yeah, I know you shouldn't have to buy this version of the game, but hey, if it's you get the complete package and one thing, have to buy anything separately, then so be it. Even Killer Instinct did this too, but even that game, as good as it is, and one of the few Xbox games, yeah, I know it's also on Steam, it's also on Windows 10 Store, whatever. Even that game being as good as it is and having decent netcode, nobody plays it. The only people who care are people like Maximilian, who may or may not be playing the game. And if he's not playing it, then I doubt other people will care. It's kind of a shame, really, since that game seems to be pretty well-rounded in terms of content. Even if some of it's a little stale and lazy, but hey, it's something. And no, I still don't care for Shadow Lords. That mode is still terrible, but I've long since not cared about that anymore. And even my old rant on Daily Motion still pretty much holds up. I hate the RNG factor. I hate the microtransactions that's on there. It's and no, I won't be playing it again because I did a follow-up to that. I literally just played my old video, so you won't be seeing that again. But this kind of turned into a rant about just people being stupid about games of rollback. But let me go back to Cross-Tag Battle Central Fiction again. So I made a tweet quite a while ago saying that if this game is going to be updated in all versions, then why can't the PS3 version be updated? Or why in games like Guilty Gear XX, why is it just the PC version? Why can't all the other versions get it? I mean, yeah, they're not going to do the 360 version. I guess that kind of makes sense, even though BlazBlue Central Fiction was a simultaneous release, I believe. It was on both PS3 and PS4. But Guilty Gear XX on Xbox 360, I guess no one's gonna really play it anymore. But it's like even that release kind of annoyed me too, because it's like, hey, we're gonna re-release our game, which is great, but only have it on Switch. And even then, that version is the exact same netcode, which, funny enough, only the PC version is getting the supposed rollback that makes the game a lot better, even though it is already a good game. It's just 5 years too late. And people immediately discard it just because the netcode is terrible, which, funny enough, the Xbox 360 version and the Switch version all have the same netcode. And even if the Switch version is hot and new, it still has the same netcode as the 360 version, which is already dead on arrival, according to these people's logic. And yes, I know the game doesn't require a lot of power to run or specs, but that's not the point. People who don't have the game on Steam and would rather play it on the Switch because portability, why do they get the short end of the stick? It's like with Nintendo games on the Wii, where the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions are objectively the better version in most cases, but for the Wii version, screw it, just make it a kid's version, or just cut the content and throw everything out the garbage. Particularly with the Spider-Man games, and funny enough, the Iron Man game, which is actually one of the few cases where that game on the Wii is actually better, but then again, so is the PS2 and PC version, which are probably based on either one of them. It's one of the better Iron Man games that we don't really find nowadays. But in most cases, though, a game that does get released on 360 and PS3 that did get ported to the Wii, it just turned out to be pretty much trash most of the time, which is unacceptable. And going back to BlazBlue Cross-Tag Battle, this rollback update is only going to be for the PC and PS4 version, but once again, the Switch version doesn't get it. And same thing with Central Fiction. It's getting the update on the PC version, but the Switch, despite being dubbed the Special Edition, which is really nothing special about it. I don't even know why they call it the Special Edition. It's just a re-release with all the DLC on there and maybe some exclusive feature I don't know about. I mean, it's not even English dub, but let's not get into that can of worms. It's BS, really. It is total BS. Why can't all versions get it? Are we really going to go back to the dark ages of console ports or version ports where one version is inferior just because it's on a Nintendo system where the hardware isn't up to speed? I mean, for God's sakes, The Witcher 3 can run on the Switch no problem, and it's in physical cart, so that should say something. When most games that get released on the Switch can't even do that, or have to be a digital download, or in the worst case scenario, the cloud. And yeah, I know downloading isn't particularly fun, but hey, at least you have to be connected online to play it once you're done downloading the thing. So I don't see that argument either. So, bottom line, you shouldn't have to pay for legacy characters unless they are characters that have not been around in the game since like the first game, and have not came back in many entries. This rollback BS, if it's a good game and you want to play it, fine, but don't come crying to me when you probably played Street Fighter 4 for the entirety of its lifespan, when even that game didn't have the greatest netcode, but it's Street Fighter, so who cares? And find out people use that for Street Fighter 5, and the game is objectively inferior in almost every way possible, even with all these kits that unlock mostly everything. And yet, if it's not Tekken or Mortal Kombat, then the netcode and anything else is complete bollocks and should not be bought, and even if the games that do come out aren't perfect, which is completely BS. I don't know what else to say, really. This is just complete hypocrisy on people on event hubs. Most biased Street Fighter website I've ever seen. Seriously, this comic room sums it all up. It's not Street Fighter, it sucks. And I think you all know what that kind of attitude sounds like. I want to displace some ranting as mayonnaise. I could probably go for some right now. And please, for the love of God, do not be this crusader against games that roll back. I don't even want to get into games like Call of Duty have objectively worse netcode, but it still makes money every frickin' year. To throw in this add-on for this little rant of mine, apparently there was also announced a combo maker. Enjoyed this sloppy seconds of Guilty Gear X Advance, one of the worst fucking Guilty Gear games ever made. Quite possibly one of the worst ports of a fighting game ever made. But it's apparently a video sharing thing that lets you upload and share combos onto the Guilty Gear Strive servers. I guess this is kind of cool, except number one, the game is piss easy as it is, so combos aren't really worth sharing in a game where anyone can do basic bitch-ass combos. This would literally been a lot more beneficial in the last game, especially since, at least in that game, it wasn't as easy compared to, say, XX Accent Core plus R. And two, there is no combo editor akin to Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where you can actually make your own combos or some shit, or hell, even the older King of Fighter games had something like this, even so much as letting you adjust inputs frame by frame. It is the ultimate tool-assisted combo macros you can make. The macros to end all macros. Seriously, it's ridiculously convenient for the challenges. I'm pretty sure there's still a old-ass clip there on YouTube showing this, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, I still don't care for this, but to be fair, it's not like, say, Tekken 7, where you have to pay money to get fucking something that should have been in the fucking game to begin with. And while it's nice it's being added via an update, I can't call it a free DLC because DLC implies you have to download it, akin to what Cross Tag Battle has you do with that Ruby character whose name I forget right now, which that was dumb. And hopefully we never have to deal with that bullshit ever again. Just in case someone leaves a comment, because I want to nip this in the ass while it's relevant. I don't think there's going to be anything else announced, and if not, then well, I don't care. That's it for now. I just wanted to throw this in there while it was slightly relevant and before I finally get around to uploading this. So I apologize for the shitty rant. I hope this makes up for the quality. And well, I hope that the Baiken update will at least bring something new to the table and hopefully some new unlocks. I will see you all next file.